Okay, at this point in the tour is when I take questions. Anything I haven't talked about you'd like to know about, this is the time to ask questions. This is our little Q&A. So,
is
yes.
it true that George Steinbrenner was supposed to actually appear on the show,
it
and
is
then he
true.
was so bad they just kicked him off?
Well, that's not exactly what happened. The question is was Steinbrenner supposed to appear on the show and it was so bad they kicked him off? That's not really what happened. I'll tell you the story, but you promise not to repeat it.
All right.
Okay. So what happened was Larry wrote this storyline for Elaine that she was going to be on a date with Steinbrenner. And you know, the voice of Steinbrenner is Larry David. So the joke was that Elaine's going to walk into the movie theater with Steinbrenner, and then you're going to hear Larry doing the voice saying, you know, oh, when I go to the movies, I like to sit on the alley, I like to sit on the inside. Because when we sit on the alley, you know, he's doing this bullshit that he does to Steinbrenner. So they asked George if he'd be in the show, and George says, yeah, I'd be thrilled to be in the show. I'd like to see the script. So they send him the script, and George reads the 3 pages of script and realizes he has no lines. Now, this show was shooting on the opening day of the season when the Yankees were opening in Cleveland, which is his hometown. So he says, look, if I'm going to miss opening day, I'm not coming out there just to sit in a theater seat and not have any lines. So Larry wrote 3 scenes he never intended to use and faxed them to Steinbrenner, who said, okay, I'll be there. And George went out there to do the show. They filmed the 3 scenes that Larry never intended to use. And then they filmed, thank you, and then they stopped short. That's my then they filmed the scene that they were going to use. With just the, you know, the recognition shot of that's really Stein. The idea was you see the back of Steinbrenner's head, Larry doing the voice, then when the camera panned around to the front, you would see it was George, and that was the gag. So they filmed that scene too, but you know, when they filmed Seinfeld, they have so many storylines going, and the show is so dense with stories, that was a storyline that could just be cut out, because the show was too long. So Larry had to make a decision to cut out Steinbrenner's scene. In that scene, Larry tells the story that, you know, he's sitting at home and he called Steinbrenner, left a message for him. Steinbrenner calls him back. His wife Lori says, Larry, George Steinbrenner's on the phone for you. He says, oh, Mr. Steinbrenner, I have some bad news to tell you. We had to cut your scenes from the show. Steinbrenner's going, says, what are you, come on, you're kidding me. He says, no, this show is running too long. We had to cut your scenes. And then it became a big thing, like in all the tabloids, like, who's not on Seinfeld this week? And that was the story of what happened. Anything else? Questions? Don't be nervous. Yes? I'm sorry, say it again? Larry's parents in real life are the basis of, like, they're a composite of George's parents and Jerry's parents. And I have a video I'll show you later that will show that point. Anything else? Okay, right here.
Is there any background of Bob Sacramento?
Bob Sacramento, the background is he's a friend of Larry Charles, who was one of the writers on the show. They went to high school together, and he's missing. We can't find him. I'd love to locate Bob Sacramento, but we haven't been able to. Yes, someone else had a question? Yes, sir.
Where did Costanza come from?
The name Costanza? Jerry went to school with a guy named Costanza, and they thought it would just be a funny name when they were making the character. So, in fact, this guy, Mike Costanza, ended up suing Jerry, claiming that the character was based on him. But, you know, Larry wrote the character. He had never met Mike Costanza, knew anything about him, and, you know, so it was just not. In fact, the judge, when he sued him for like $100 million, the judge, not only did he throw out the lawsuit, but he fined Mike Costanza and his lawyer each $5,000 for wasting the court's time with a frivolous lawsuit. So he got his, yeah. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Is there a real Newman?
There is a real, well, not exactly a real Newman, but Newman was an incident that took place that ended up on Seinfeld. What happened was a guy who lived in my building, very talented piano player, lived on the 40th floor, but the guy was an alcoholic. He was like really a bust-out drunk. And he used to call me up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning begging for alcohol. And sometimes I'd stumble to the door and put a bottle out. In all fairness, if I put a half a bottle of Absolute, the next day he returns a full bottle to me. This happened 2 or 3 times. Finally, I see him in the street and I say, look, don't you ever again call me in the middle of the night for alcohol. You know, you really got a problem here. You better get some help, but I'm no longer going to enable you. Don't even think about calling me again. Sure enough, I get a phone call from him again. 4 o'clock in the morning. Hey, please, I got to have something to do. I swear this is the last time. I said, look, I told you no, I mean no. He said, you don't understand. If I don't do something to drink, I'll be jumping off my terrace. And I said, well, you know, you're on the 40th floor. Do me a favor, look below, make sure no one else gets hurt. Have a good flight. And I hung up on him. The next day I told Larry about this conversation. He thought it was hilarious that that's what I said. The first time we ever heard of him, it was actually the voice of Larry David, who was a neighbor of Jerry's, begging for alcohol. He was going to jump out the window, and Jerry says, just look below, make sure no one else gets hurt. And then they decided, let's make that a character, and they hired Wayne Knight, and then they went back and they redubbed it, so that when you watch the reruns, yeah, it's Wayne Knight's voice on the telephone, no longer Larry David. But if you buy the DVD, you have the option track of hearing it with Larry or with Wayne. So that's where Newman came from. Yes, ma'am? The inspiration for the man is you was, I guess, a guy with chunky sort of breasts, but it had nothing to do with me. Anything else? Yes?
Why is there not a spin-off of the show?
There's no spin-off on the show because Larry and Jerry would have to okay it, and Larry and Jerry have no reason to okay it because, first of all, money would not be the reason to do it because these guys are both so wealthy beyond your imagination, beyond your imagination. But and to take a chance of going back and revisiting something that ended up so great, you know, it just why take a chance of ruining it. And so there'll never be a spin-off.
So no reunion.
There's no reunion show? No, I doubt it very much. Who knows what will happen 20 years from now, but right now there's definitely no plans for a reunion. All the cast members are all doing their own thing. Larry's doing Curb. Jerry has been very busy. He also does stand-up every weekend in a different theater around America, and he has a movie coming out called The Bee Movie, which he'll be on Letterman promoting on the 20th. And Julia, of course, Julia has her own series, which is now a hit, and Jason, I don't know if a lot of people don't realize what a great song and dance man he is. You know, he's the producers with Michael Short, with Martin Short, and he has commissioned as a 1950s movie called Marty, that you might remember, with Ernest Borgnine. You know, he commissioned that to be written as a musical, as a theatrical musical, which he will be bringing to Broadway in the next year or two. So he's quite busy. And Kramer, you know, poor Michael, you know, he's on the Amalfi Coast laying in the sun, last I heard. For every now and then he comes out and he does theater. I think around Christmas time he's going to be doing Scrooge in L.A. Last year he did a show about that sort. He was excellent. He's a good actor. People don't realize it, but the problem is he comes on the screen and it's like, that's Kramer. What is he doing being serious? You know, why isn't he banging into the wall, you know? So, Trumbo, he does this show called Trumbo about Dalton Trumbo, who was blacklisted as a writer during the 50s, and he plays Dalton Trumbo and reads letters from his diary. And it's really excellent. I saw it a couple of years ago. Anyway, I'll give you a chance to ask more questions later, but coming up soon is one of the most famous and recognizable sites on Seinfeld. Of course, it's that restaurant where every week the plot thickens. On the show it's called Monks, in real life it's called Tom's, and it's run by Pete, so go figure. But what we're going to do is have a photo opportunity, and I'll be happy to have my picture taken with everybody on board the bus. The way we'll do this is I'll ask you to make a line, turn on your camera, advance the film, make sure the lens is open. These digital cameras, they automatically default to save your battery, so make sure the camera is freshly turned on when you hand it to the person behind you, and then they'll take a picture of us together. If you have a digital camera, check the picture. If you don't like it, we'll reshoot it. After we all take these individual pictures, I'm going to ask you to come together, and we're going to take a group picture with my camera with the wide-angle lens, and I'm going to put that picture up on my website, and I'll tell you how to find it later today. But just a word of caution, you know, today everybody is on the internet. So if you're here today with a date you might not want to be seen with, you know what I'm saying? Just kind of split up, and that way nobody gets hurt. So you can leave all your property on the bus. It'll be secure because Sal's going to make sure everything is safe on the bus.
We're at 112th Street and Broadway West, 112th Street and
So hang tight a
Broadway.
second, folks. Let me just get to my
Tom's
camera to give it to Sal. We'll get off and take some pictures.
Purchase the picture.
Not
Okay,
purchase it. I send it to you for free if you want.
You're listening to Visions, a series of visits to almost everywhere. We're right off the corner of West 110th Street and Broadway, Tom's Restaurant. Okay, we're getting out now. I don't have a camera. I didn't expect to really take your pictures, so I don't have one. I'm going to put my bag right there. Okay, I'm going to get off, and everybody getting off. Okay, we're off the bus right now. Again, West 112th Street and Broadway. Kenny Kramer is we're getting a little chilly out. We're going to kind of be saying goodbye when this whole thing is over, but while we have a moment, we're just going to, okay, everybody's going to be...
You got a camera?
No, I don't. Okay. Okay, everybody's going to be taking a shot at Tom's Restaurant. Here it is. Here it is, Tom's Restaurant. The sign wraps around. Tom's is on Broadway. The name Tom's, and then restaurant. The restaurant, of course, heading in the 110th Street direction. Then it wraps around. The restaurant. We're looking at restaurant right here. That's right on 110th Street. We're looking into the restaurant now. See what's going on. You got the counter. You have the benches, of course. You know, the booths. And the sign itself, it's a blue background. It's probably about 2.5 to 3 feet tall up the side. You know, the border is about 2.5 feet tall. The letters are in red, neon red. So that's Tom's Restaurant. Everybody's lined up to take pictures, and it's a beautiful day here in the city. A little chilly, but a beautiful day. It is, again, it is November 18th, 2006. It is a Saturday afternoon. We're on the Kenny Kramer Reality Tour. And it's a full house. We had a full boat. This is his second tour of the season. His first one was on November the 11th, and he'll continue through, and I think he takes a summer hiatus. And everybody's taking pictures with Kenny right now. They're all lined up. And here we are, West 112th Street and Broadway, Tom's Restaurant. It's called Monks. It's called Monks in the series. So everybody's lined up over here, and people are watching. Who's this? What's going on? That's Kenny Kramer. That's Kenny Kramer. He's the real Kramer.
He looks different than.
Yeah, I know.
He's the guy on TV.
No, but he
is.
Oh no, he's the role model. He's the inspiration
for Kramer. I see.
Yeah, Cosmo Kramer is the person on television, and Kenny Kramer, that's the actual Kramer.
Oh, I got it.
And it's the Kramer Reality Tour. That's the bus here. We all got off the bus just now.
Where's he from?
He's from New York. Hell's Kitchen.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so I gave a little background on who we're looking at over there. Okay. And this is Monks. This is Monks Coffee Shop right here. Okay, let's take a break here. Everybody just wants to get shots with Kenny, taking pictures, and all lined up over here, and that's what's going on. We have there's a happening here in Manhattan. Well, there's always a happening in Manhattan, and people are just watching to see what's going on. Who's the guy? You heard me speaking to the person, and here's the people sitting in there eating, wondering what's going on out here. So it's Tom's Restaurant, owned by a guy named Pete. So let's cut tape for a second. Let's stop tape for a second and see what's going on there. And there are people inside the restaurant taking pictures of what's going on outside the restaurant. And so the people taking pictures of people taking pictures. Yeah, there you go. So it's twice real. People taking pictures of people taking pictures. So that's what's going on. Let's, again, you're listening to Visions, a series of visits to almost everywhere. I'm your host and fellow traveler, Herb Mossman. Again, we're on the Kenny Kramer Reality Tour. Let's cut tape. I do want to make a point that there's always so much happening in New York City. For instance, we're moving along now, heading uptown on West 113th Street, and there's a gentleman out here playing chess, two people playing chess, and I don't know if they play for money. I know they play for time, and there are donations. Okay, there are donations over here, and I don't know who I don't know if it's the guy on the left or the right, and of course the time I think is just 3 minutes or 2 minutes. Listen to this guy. The guy. Okay, I don't know what I'm hearing, but I guess perhaps it's one of the players. Anyway, that's what's going on. There's a chess game going on over here. There's things happening, people walking around, and really there's a happening on the corner. But New York is pretty much okay. There's a happening on the corner. To keep on, there's always so much happening on corners in New York City. This is not all that much out of the ordinary. Let's pause. And we're just passing by Oren's Daily Roast Coffees and Teas. And man, you can still just smell some of the coffee, the great aroma of coffee in Orange over here. Man, what a terrific aroma. Okay, so that's Orange coffee and teas, Daily Roast. Let's pause. Couldn't resist bringing you into Tom's Restaurant to see what's going on, and let's just kind of walk around here. There's people eating, people playing cards. A guy and probably his son playing cards at the table here. Okay, what game are they playing? I don't know what they're playing, but they're playing cards. Folks are eating. They're hanging around, walking around. We're right back near the kitchen now. And I don't think we can get through here. I don't think we can get through. I don't want to confuse anybody. We're walking around. We're right at the counter now. Right at the counter. We're walking, and there are shots here of the portrait that's done on Seinfeld of Kramer. There's the portrait right here of Kramer, with that jacket. You know, the Babe Magnet, I think he called it. Here's a shot over here of the four of them. Jerry Seinfeld, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Michael Richards and Jason Alexander. It's all autograph signed. And then a shot of there's Jerry Seinfeld standing with somebody, a friend of this is New York, I guess perhaps she works here. So this is Tom. We're actually in Tom's restaurant right now. This is off the tour, but this is Tom's restaurant. Perhaps I have a friend downtown, Maria Cream, who needs an autograph of Seinfeld. Can I have one of those menus?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have a time. Can I get two? Okay, I've got two Tom's restaurants, and I'm going to get.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to get Kramer to sign this for my friend Marie, for her son Ray. So okay, so we're inside Tom's restaurant now. We're going to get out of here. They don't cash checks here. If you're planning on us paying with a check, they don't take checks here. Okay, so that's Tom's restaurant. So we'd give you a little. Bonus here. So let's move along. You're listening to Visions, a series of visits to almost everywhere. We're in Tom's restaurant, which doubles as Monk's restaurant on Seinfeld, and that's it. Tom's restaurant. Here we go. Let's go back outside. In fact, let's cut tape. Back on for a second, as Kenny Kramer was talking about stand-up New York. My daughter, it's stand up New York, so she's part of that. She's part of that group. Kim Peterson. So if you see Kim Peterson somewhere down the road doing stand-up comedy, that's my kid. She made her debut as a stand-up comic at Stand Up New York. So, and I believe it's 79th. I believe it's 79th right off Broadway. So she was there. And okay, let's cut tape. Just to kind of line up the shot for you, so you know the shot that they're taking. Kenny Kramer is standing right on the corner of West 112th Street and Broadway, and right behind him, the backdrop is Tom's restaurant. So folks are taking photographs of him, they're taking pictures of him, and looking just over the people that are being photographed, you'll see Tom's restaurant. I mean, I look at Tom's restaurant, this is classic, this is history right here. So that's the shot that they're getting. They're getting Kenny Kramer and Tom's restaurant. Now there's going to be a group shot, so I'm going to do that. There's going to be a group shot, so let's take that shot.
All right, move over. We're going to go fire hydrant over. It's a wide angle lens, so move over. Move over this way. Move over this way. Move over.
Okay, Kenny is lining up the shot now.
Back to the front.
Okay, of course we're in this shot over here. We're on the left, extreme left, and Kramer's getting into the picture now. So he's kneeling down. He's in the front row. We're in the extreme left, and the shot is being taken now. And there it is. We got it. Okay, let's take a pause. Okay, we're getting ready to get back on the bus, and I do have to apologize. The equipment I'm using, where it hasn't been, I guess I'm using a voice-activated deal, so it hasn't faded out as I was afraid it would. But you may be getting some distortion on this. There may be some distortion from time to time vocally, so I apologize for that. But I hope you can look past that bit of distortion I seem to be getting with this machine occasionally, and just to get behind that, get beyond that, and enjoy this whole piece, because I'm having a great time. The folks on board are having a great time, and this has been I guess getting into Tom's restaurant is. Hope you had some fun in there. It's kind of off the tour, but what the heck. I feel let me bounce in. The worst they can do is throw me out, and listening to this program, we get thrown out of a lot of places, but we weren't thrown out. They were very friendly. I have a friend, Maria Cream, on 23rd Street. Well, actually, she's a fellow Brooklynite. Her son, Ray, R-E-Y, wanted a Kenny Kramer's autograph, so I'm going to put that on Tom's restaurant. I may just get one for myself as well. So we're getting back on the bus now, and this has been great. And I'm going to assume that at this point we're heading downtown again. We may be passing the Soup Nazi soup stand. The Soup Nazi is no longer in business. He has quit the city. He's gone. If you look on his website, Look on the Soup Nazi website where it says refund policy. You hit that link, refund policy. It says no refunds. So that's the Soup Nazi website you want to check. But Al Yaganaw, his name is Al Yaganaw. The Soup Nazi is no longer selling soup here in New York City. I think he franchises out now. But you can't use the N-word when you go into a soup place. So he makes it very clear on the website. You cannot use the N-word, and there are no refunds. Soup Nazi, no refunds. Let's pause. Okay, we're back on tape.
Kenny, this they found the glove back there. You know, it's 100% cashmere. It doesn't have no dot on it, so.
Lovely. Found a glove in the back. Anybody? That's yours. Okay. Pass this back to the lady. Sure. 100% cashmere, and it doesn't have a red dot on it. I was told.
Cashmere. I love cashmere.
Well, somebody asked me why this particular restaurant. The silly story that goes with it, there's a woman who had the job of getting locations for the show. They called her up and said, we need a generic restaurant. She lives in that building across the street. She came out the door and said, look at this, I'm done for the day. So, right now, our driver is going to attempt a U-turn on Broadway with the longest bus you could have street legal in New York. Look out, folks, here we go. This is going to be quite a move. He got away for the light. Yeah. You know, that restaurant was such a hotbed of activity. The last episode of Seinfeld, like I came up here, a radio station took over the place for the morning show, and I came up and did it, and outside was like every news crew you could imagine, you know, doing stories, because there was so much hype about the last episode of Seinfeld. And so I came out the door and I did maybe 10 interviews with every network, you know. And then that night I had a gig. I was hosting a party for the New York Times. It was like the last night of Seinfeld party. And they sent out a press release that I was hosting this party for them. So in the course of the evening, I did interviews with Now, Access, Hollywood, Hard Copy, Entertainment Tonight, all of those tabloid shows. What do you think, Sal? We got it or what? I think we might have to take out a pedestrian or two. I go to sleep thinking to myself, you know, I've just done like 15, maybe 20 television interviews. Tomorrow, you know, it's going to be insane as far as publicity-wise, because I'm going to be like on every tabloid show, news show there is, because, you know, Where Were You the Last Night of Seinfeld was a huge story, and I was like a great sidebar, you know, Kramer the Last Night of Seinfeld. So I was very excited about the prospect of being like on every show imaginable, but as it turns out, I was on practically no shows whatsoever. Now, had Frank Sinatra just lived one more day, would have made all the difference in the world. But on May 15th, Sinatra's dead. That was the story, and nobody cared about Seinfeld anymore. So I always liked Frank Sinatra right up to that last day of his life when he died.
We made the U-turn, by the way. We did make the U-turn.
The show killed him.
I was so dense with stories that was a storyline that could just be cut out because the show was too long. So Larry had to make a decision to cut out Steinbrenner's scene. In that scene, Larry tells the story that, you know, he's sitting at home and he called Steinbrenner, left a message for him. Steinbrenner calls him back. His wife, Lori, says, Larry, George Steinbrenner's on the phone for you. He said, oh, Mr. Steinbrenner, I have some bad news to tell you. We had to cut your scenes from the show. Steinbrenner's going, says, what, come on, you're kidding me. He says, no, this show is running too long. We had to cut your scenes. And then it became a big thing, like in all the tabloids, like, who's not on Seinfeld this week? And that was the story of what happened. Anything else? Questions? Don't be nervous. Yes? I'm sorry, say it again? Larry's parents in real life are the basis of, like, they're a composite of George's parents and Jerry's parents. And I have a video I'll show you later that will show that point. Anything else? Okay, right here.
Is there any background of Bob Sacramento?
Bob Sacramento, the background is he's a friend of Larry Charles, who was one of the writers on the show. They went to high school together, and he's missing. We can't find him. I'd love to locate Bob Sacramento, but we haven't been able to. Yes, someone else had a question? Yes, sir.
Where did Costanza come from?
The name Costanza? Jerry went to school with a guy named Costanza, and they thought it would just be a funny name when they were making the character. So, in fact, this guy, Mike Costanza, ended up suing Jerry, claiming that the character was based on him. But, you know, Larry wrote the character. He had never met Mike Costanza, knew anything about him, and, you know, so it was just not. In fact, the judge, when he sued him for like $100 million, the judge, not only did he throw out the lawsuit, but he fined Mike Costanza and his lawyer each $5,000. Okay, at this point in the tour is when I take questions. Anything I haven't talked about you'd like to know about, this is the time to ask questions. This is our little Q&A, so
Is
yes.
it true that George Steinbrenner was supposed to actually appear on the show,
It
and
is
then he
true.
was so bad they just kicked him off?
Well, that's not exactly what happened. The question is was Steinbrenner supposed to appear on the show? It was so bad they kicked him off. That's not really what happened. I'll tell you the story, but you promise not to repeat it.
All right.
Okay. So what happened was Larry wrote this storyline for Elaine that she was going to be on a date with Steinbrenner. And you know, the voice of Steinbrenner is Larry David. So the joke was that Elaine's going to walk into the movie theater with Steinbrenner, and then you're going to hear Larry doing the voice saying, you know, oh, when I go to the movies, I like to sit on the alley, I like to sit on the inside. Because when we sit on the alley, you know, he's doing this bullshit that he does to Steinbrenner. So they asked George if he'd be in the show, and George says, yeah, I'd be thrilled to be in the show. I'd like to see the script. So they send him to dollars for wasting the court's time with a frivolous lawsuit. So he got his, yeah. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Is there a real Newman?
There is a real, well, there's not exactly a real Newman, but Newman was an incident that took place that ended up on Seinfeld. What happened was a guy who lived in my building, very talented piano player, lived on the 40th floor, but the guy was an alcoholic. He was like really a bust-out drunk. And he used to call me up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning begging for alcohol. And sometimes I'd stumble to the door and put a bottle out. In all fairness, if I put a half a bottle of Absolute, the next day he returns a full bottle to me. This happened 2 or 3 times. Finally, I see him in the street and I say, look, don't you ever again call me in the middle of the night for alcohol. You know, you really got a problem here. You better get some help, but I'm no longer going to enable you. Don't even think about calling me again. Sure enough, I get a phone call from him again. 4 o'clock in the morning. Hey, please, I got to have something to do. I swear this is the last time. I said, look, script. And George reads the 3 pages of script and realizes he has no lines. Now, this show was shooting on the opening day of the season when the Yankees were opening in Cleveland, which is his hometown. So he says, look, if I'm going to miss opening day, I'm not coming out there just to sit in a theater seat and not have any lines. So Larry wrote 3 scenes he never intended to use and faxed them to Steinbrenner, who said, okay, I'll be there. And George went out there to do the show. They filmed the 3 scenes that Larry never intended to use. And then they filmed, thank you, and then they stopped short. That's my then they filmed the scene that they were going to use with just the, you know, the recognition shot of that's really Stein. The idea was you see the back of Steinbrenner's head, Larry doing the voice, then when the camera panned around to the front you would see it was George, and that was the gag. So they filmed that scene too, but you know, when they film Seinfeld they have so many storylines going in the show.